been the old mountain town of Belhallow. The winters were long, and the snow never quite melted away. The townsfolk would talk about a kind of cold, so ancient that it seemed to carry whispers that drifted through the night air like distant, haunting hymns. But of all the stories told in Belhallow, the darkest was the one about the child found in the ice. They called him the Frozen Choirboy. It all began in 1874, when an entire choir from the local church vanished during a brutal winter storm. They were returning from a performance in a neighboring village when the blizzard hit, burying the paths and swallowing the forest in white. Search parties combed the woods for days, their lanterns cutting through the swirling snow, calling out names that were lost to the wind. It was one man, a trapper named Silas, who discovered something beneath the frozen surface of Blackwood Lake. There, perfectly preserved as if sleeping beneath a sheet of glass, was a young boy. His eyes were closed, his lips slightly parted, as though he were just about to sing. He was one of the missing choir boys. Carefully, the townsfolk cut a large block of ice around him and carried the frozen child back to the town chapel. The air in the stone building was cold, but nothing like the cold that clung to the boy. As they set the ice block down before the altar, the candles lining the nave flickered violently, their flames dancing as if caught in a gale. Then the grand pipe organ, untouched for days, let out a single long, mournful note that echoed through the silent chapel and then faded into nothing. In the stunned silence that followed, some swore they saw the boy's frost-covered eyelashes tremble. Others whispered that his small fingers had curled slightly inward, as if gripping invisible sheet music. Shaken, the priest ordered the body to remain sealed within its icy tomb, which they placed inside a specially constructed glass case. He believed it was a miracle, a sign of divine preservation. For weeks, villagers came to the chapel to pay their respects and to mourn the lost choir. They would light candles and say prayers for the boy who slept in the ice. But soon, strange things began to happen. Late at night, when the town was quiet, the chapel watchman reported hearing faint, shuffling footsteps echoing across the cold stone floors. He'd find him books flipped open to songs the choir had practiced, their pages stiff with frost. And on the coldest nights, a thin layer of frost would appear across the wooden pews, forming patterns that looked eerily like small, bare footprints. The unsettling events made people nervous. Fewer and fewer came to visit the frozen child. One evening, a young altar boy named Thomas was tasked with cleaning the chapel. He was sweeping near the altar when he heard a soft, trembling voice singing a Latin hymn. The sound was faint, ethereal, and it seemed to be coming from the glass case. Trembling, Thomas crept closer. He could see the boy inside, his form still and unmoving. He knelt down, his heart pounding in his chest, and whispered, "Are you alive?" The singing stopped abruptly, and then, slowly, chillingly, the Choirboy's eyes opened. They were a piercing, icy blue, and they stared directly at Thomas through the glass. The altar boy let out a scream that tore through the silence of the chapel and ran out into the snowy night, his words tumbling out in a torrent of terror. He babbled about the frozen child moving about its eyes opening, about the song from the ice. The villagers, roused by his cries, rushed to the chapel with lanterns and torches. When they burst inside, they found the glass case was fogged from the inside, as though someone had just breathed upon it. A small hand-shaped smear was visible on the inner surface, but the boy inside was just as they had found him, motionless, his eyes once again closed. The priest dismissed it as a trick of the light, the boy's overactive imagination. When spring finally arrived, melting the heavy snows and bringing life back to the mountains, the priest decided it was time to give the boy a proper burial. The ground had thawed enough to dig a grave, but when he and 2 other men went to retrieve the body, they stopped dead in their tracks. The glass case was empty. The frost on the inside had melted, and the condensation had formed a trail of tiny, wet footprints leading from the case down the chapel aisle and out the heavy oak doors. The tracks led back toward Blackwood Lake and disappeared at the water's edge, right into the still frozen ice. To this day, travelers who pass through the woods near Belhallow sometimes report hearing a faint, beautiful melody drifting on the wind, a solo voice singing a hymn without word. And if they dare to walk near the lake at dusk, when the light is fading, they say you can sometimes see a small figure standing just beneath the surface of the ice. His eyes are open, watching, waiting for someone to finally join him and finish the song he never did. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Tales from the Shadows.